Alright. That's insane. Alright, so we're doing a spoiler-free review of Avengers Infinity War. I'm trying to do it on actually the main site, but whatever. So hopefully this is out there in Twitterland and Facebook or wherever. And yeah, so only a couple hours out from actually seeing the film. It is really cool. So, where do we begin with this? Alright. So the film's about 2.5 hours, and basically the thing I would like to stress about Infinity War is that this is one part of a massive story. There is... it's really difficult because I don't want to spoil this for you. This is a pretty key thing. I want you to go in and enjoy the film without it being spoiled, basically. Like, this should be fun for you. It should be entertaining. And basically, like, this yeah. So, let's see here. I'm trying to think of what we can actually say without spoiling things. Alright. So, to me, Avengers Infinity War is what the first Avengers and Age of Ultron should have been. It really is the culmination of 10 years of all these films coming together into a really impressive cinematic thing. Like, this is a movie you're going to want to see on the screen. This is a movie that is... really freaking impressive. Like, I'm kind of shocked at how much I enjoyed it. So to kind of build up this, for those who might care, and there's probably like 2 of you that do, my favorite Marvel films in general order is Winter Soldier. Not really. Winter Soldier is my favorite out of all of them. And then from there, you can mix them up in order, but don't really care. But Ragnarok, Black Panther, Ant-Man, like, to me, there's a fantastic. I enjoyed Avengers. I can't say I was on, like, the Avengers gravy train, and these are turning purple and the weirdness, so we're going to take those off. So, like, the first Avengers, I really, really enjoyed and understand, like, how good it was, as far as what it was doing. But as far as, like, as far as a movie, like, I just thought it was entertaining. So... there's that. The Age of Ultron I thought was like a horrible film and kind of a massive step back. Basically, Infinity War is everything coming together. There are things that go and play back to some of the earliest films of Marvel's Cinematic Universe. There is callbacks to feels like almost every single film, and it explained things really, really well. If you have been looking forward to finally that big smackdown with Thanos, you probably will be happy with this. However, this is the empire of the huge giant story arc that they're doing. Remember, there was supposed to be an Avengers Infinity War Part 2. This was never like one giant movie, and that seems to be probably what will be the criticism that's going to be coming out from a lot of folks. This is not really a trilogy. It'll be, 4 films? So, that will be kind of how it's judged. But the audience reactions seem to love it. Some folks at the end weren't quite as happy with it, in that they got to the end and their comment was like, "That's it." So I have a feeling generally this movie is going to be loved and people are going to be flipping their shit. But there's probably going to be a lot of folks who are going to be irritated by the end of the film and how it wraps up. That being said, what the film does is really impressive in that it really does toss, like, a whole bunch of expectations. From what I can tell, from all the, like, chatter and line as to what people think is going to happen, like, who's going to die, who's going to survive, like, all those experts aren't experts. This will really show that pretty much a lot of the people who are talking about this stuff online are just full of shit, and to stop listening to them. It's basically a one big giant action film. So the things that really stood out to me is that there's a lot of humor in the film. It's not quite the level of Ragnarok, but it's pretty damn close. There'll be a serious moment, some action, and then there'll be like a fun, quippy back and forth. And then the audience will laugh, and you'll probably like miss a whole bunch of stuff because you're laughing. And then the movie goes on, repeat like 100 times. So that's kind of surprised me a lot, is that how funny the film was. It really kind of stuck to the humor. It was clearly something they wanted to do. It did break up kind of the action, a lot of it. If it was just straight up action for 2.5 hours, the film just wouldn't have worked. But the humor makes it entertaining in kind of a different way, and breaks up the monotony of like people punching each other. So there's that. So the tone, I think, is absolutely fantastic, and the flow of the film is really great. It's a roller coaster. It really starts off right away going up that hill, and you just don't slow down after that. So all that's fantastic. I kind of want to get out the bad stuff. Is Olsen with Scarlet Witch. She seems to be pretty inconsistent with her accent. That drove me a little nuts. The CGI, for as amazing as Thanos is in it, and he really is amazing, we'll talk about that in a little bit, there is one particular scene towards the end that involves the Hulkbuster. The CGI is so freaking bad, it was driving me insane. Like, how it was this bad, kind of, I don't know. So that was really the two things that really stood out to me that I had problems with. Alright, so kind of going through... We went through the beat. Let's talk Thanos. So he shows up, and this movie establishes that this dude is a badass, and they do that right away. But I think the bigger thing is that they give him a lot of depth in the character. This is a character you understand his motivations, you get why he's doing it. But the bigger thing that I think was really, really cool in that they gave him a loss, and you can actually feel his emotions. You sympathize for him. This guy is a despotic, genocidal maniac, and at moments you're actually feeling bad for him, which is really, really interesting. The thought that I would think that I would feel bad about Thanos and kind of why he's doing the stuff he's doing, like, I really didn't expect it. He might be one of the best villains that they've done. Like, Loki's really fun. I mean, I always thought Marvel's villains were kind of a little but Loki was a lot of fun, but Thanos really does have, like, a fantastic depth to him that's been kind of lacking, I think, in a lot of the villains. James Brolin in the character does a fantastic job. There's moments that it really feels like James Brolin in makeup, and to me that's really, really impressive. There's one scene, and I'm actually going to see this again on Friday. There's one scene where you can see him, like, his eye twitch, and I think that level of detail, like, and the thing is, it's like a small twitch where, like, that kind of thing where you're, like, thinking and there's your eye twitches a little bit. That amount of depth is really impressive to me, and it doesn't feel like CGI. It really feels like James Brolin was acting in it, and that thing's just picked up his eye twitch. So that, like, level of CGI is great. Like, I will be shocked if this film doesn't win some awards based off of just that CGI. I actually think it's, to me, so War of the Planet of the Apes is absolutely fantastic, and there's times I forgot that I was watching CGI monkeys. This was that very same feeling. There are some times that it does feel very, like, multi-million-dollar CGI fest. However, when it comes to Thanos, as much as we ragged on him online and made him sound like he was either the dude from Las Vegas, the purchasing guy, or Guy Fieri, or whatever we want to make fun of, it kind of goes away in the film, which I thought was really, really cool. I just stopped paying attention to that and just enjoyed it, partially because Brolin's performance is actually really fantastic. The other thing is they tend to make fun of him. There's some great lines mocking his look, and it's a lot of the stuff that we mocked online, which I thought was really fantastic. The willingness of them allowing to do that, I thought was great. Um, there's interesting things in that the film plays with the genre and the tone a little bit, and that's some things that I really like about some of the latter Marvel films. Um, Ant-Man was just a heist comedy. Ragnarok just had this like Kirby rock and roll feel about it. Black Panther obviously had a very different tone about it. And this one, in the beginning, has a very much like a disaster horror film tone, which I thought it was actually really interesting. It's not present throughout the entire film, but it really kind of sets a mood that I think is kind of key getting you into this world. Um, all right, so we're going with that. Let's see what else. And it's really hard not to spoil this. If you guys want to ask questions, do it in the chat on YouTube. I will do my best to answer, but I am going to try not to spoil things. There's a thing online. They said don't spoil it. As a media, they've asked us not to spoil it, so I'm not going to be an asshole, and we're not that site. Um, let's see what else. The big things that I really enjoyed about the film is, one, it really takes you through the Marvel universe. Obviously New York is kind of center of the Marvel universe, but you get to see so much of what's come before. Obviously Wakanda's in there. That's not a spoiler. We see that in the trailers and the ads. There's a lot of other locations that we go to that we have seen in the past, which is really cool. There's some references to other places and beings that, explains either their absences or what happened. There's a lot there that, for longtime fans who've been watching this stuff for 10 years, you're going to enjoy because it's callbacks to things that have come before. Let's see here. The comic fans are going to love this film. If you are a die-hard comic fan, there is so much crap in this that it'll be... I like the Easter eggs that are come out that aren't really Easter eggs. They're just kind of explaining stuff that the average person might not know. They're gonna go freaking insane for it. There's tons of stuff. There's things that have kind of been like hinted at before and kind of coming together. Like it's so hard to describe without spoiling. Let's see here. What else do we got? We gotta have questions out there. I'm not gonna spoil like who lives, who dies. I think the big thing to take away from this film is if you think that this is the story, like this is the end culmination of 10 years, you are high as a kite. We know that Avengers Infinity War Part 2 is coming, and this film is Part 1 of Part 2. So it was really interesting to listen to others that were in the screening kind of mouth off at the end about that. I actually thought they kind of they're kind of assholes about it and seemed to show that they don't know what they were watching, or not just aware of what's going on. It really has a feel of Empire. Like, to me, this is the Empire Strikes Back of the Marvel Universe in a really good way. I love Empire, and if you say any of the other Star Wars films are better, you're freaking high as a kite. All right. So we've talked CGI. We've talked bad guys. We'll talk the good guys. So pretty much everyone is in this film. There is very few characters that I can think of that aren't in it. I know there's a lot of people talking about Hawkeye and Ant-Man and their lack of promotion. All that's explained away, and it makes sense. And if you really think about it, Hawkeye and Ant-Man, especially Ant-Man, are doing pretty much jack shit against Thanos. So how the movie deals with them makes a lot of sense, and yeah, we'll just go with that. There are some jokes about that, of like there being a Spider-Man and an Ant-Man, and that's the thing that really stands out from the film is the jokes. This was something I wasn't expecting. I don't think I was expecting like a straight up action film But there is more, I think, in tone with this film with Thor Ragnarok than there was the first two Avengers. The first two Avengers are action films and kind of disaster-ish films in a way. And the interactions are fantastic, but this isn't the thing where someone looks at someone and just outright calls them a douchebag. There's stuff like that in there. And if you really think about it, the personalities are set up for that. Like, Tony Stark and Peter Quill and Tony Stark and Stephen Strange, like, these guys would not get along. You know, they're going to sit there and have a dick measuring contest while the world is burning because that's their personality. And the film seems to acknowledge that. It makes you appreciate Cap more and how humble he is. And, you know, Black Panther T'Challa is freaking awesome in it. And pretty much everyone has their moments. That's the thing. The big characters of the film really kind of centers around. Thor is a big one in this, is really, really huge. I'm not going to spoil on Ant-Man. I'm just going to leave it at that. Hawkeye, people have noticed that Hawkeye isn't on the ads and isn't on the posters. Ant-Man, I made a crack that he was on the poster. He was like a small speck. Thankfully, a couple people laughed at that one. But the movie explains everything, and it works really, really well. And it makes sense. It makes complete sense. And some people, when it comes to this and what they were expecting, actually were pretty clear, actually nailed what they thought, what they were expecting. I'm trying to think about this. All right, so, like, Robert Downey Jr. obviously is one of the centers of the film because he really is the center of the Marvel Universe. It started with him. And everything went from there. You know, Cap being created was Stark's father. Stark is the center of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And the film recognizes that and deals with that. It's really interesting. And towards the end of the film, there are some things I think that acknowledges that in a really interesting way. The other is it deals with Tony's his PTSD and his trauma. He's still dealing with New York getting destroyed. He knows Thanos is behind that and is a little freaked out when someone's like, hey, Thanos is about to come here and murder everyone. So kind of seeing the swagger go away a little bit is interesting. Thor, it makes complete sense. There's some great pickup from the end of Ragnarok. The Asgardians are refugees. They outright call themselves refugees, which is such a small, minute detail that's fantastic. And I think the film is littered with tons of minute details that really make it stand out. He's, though, I think, pretty much like the trilogy. If you want to name Marvel Cinematic Trilogy, it's Thor, Iron Man, and Captain America. Hopefully Black Panther will be part of that trilogy going forward, depending on whatever Part 2 brings. But Thor is the other huge center of it. I think the advertisement really is underplayed how much Thor is important in the film. So if you enjoyed Ragnarok, this really is a continuation of Ragnarok. Obviously Captain America Steve Rogers is super important. And when he shows up, the pop from the theater is awesome. I think that's the thing that I loved about the film, or at least with the audience I saw it on, is there were so many goddamn moments where people were hooting and hollering and yelling hell yeah and get some and just doing the pops from the excitement of seeing moments and characters and kick-ass sequences. It's just a film that the audience seemed to love, and just the energy in it was really impressive. And I think the only time I've ever really felt that before was Black Panther. The multiple times I saw Black Panther, every time the audience had that energy to it. And believe it or not, the other one I saw it to was Zombieland. Out of all the movies, there was 5 of us in the theater for a midnight screening, and we all were kind of in sync as to what we were doing about the film. So, screaming out double tap and stuff like that made it really fun. This film had that sort of feel. When Captain America shows up, you are just in that hell yeah sort of moment. And I'd just like to point out, Cap is stealing my look with the beard and the hair back. This was here before him. Though he has it coiffed a little bit better, but he's, a Hollywood star, and I'd expect his person look a lot better. You know, do a lot better than mine. But I feel more justified in my hair and beard choice at this point because of that. I just don't have the bulk like he does. So that's absolutely fantastic. I'm trying to think what else. The good, like the good is there's no bad to this film. The Black Order. We'll talk about Black Order. So we talked about Thanos. We'll talk about. Well, I'm not doing the on the captain now. The Black Order is in the film, and they're freaking awesome. We get like no background of the Black Order at all, but every single one is fantastic. Like Ebony Maw, Proxima, was it Proxima Midnight? All of them are just badass and feel like basically just feels like the antithesis of the Avengers and can take them on in any way. There are some fantastic fights. They feel like real fights. You actually feel like this is a battle for the Avengers, and this is something that I think was missing in a lot of these films. You know, Captain America versus Baron Zemo, like Cap's gonna win. This isn't a shock on this one. You know, him versus Beltrek the Leaper, like Cap's gonna kick Beltrek's ass. I don't care if it was you know, a UFC star or whatever. He's gonna whip his ass. You know, in first Iron Man versus Stain, like, of course he's gonna win on that one. It's like, it's pretty obvious stuff. Whiplash, all that. Like, none of the villains to me really felt of the caliber of the heroes, at least in a physical fight. This film feels like the heroes are actually struggling to just even do the basic of stuff. You know, it's not a 1-on-1 fight. It's a 4-on-2 fight, a 5-on-1 fight. Every single time, they are outnumbering the bad guys, and they're still barely pulling off what they pull off. So having that over and over and over is great. The Black Order isn't explained at all. Basically, they come off as religious fanatics for Thanos, and that totally is fine. We don't need a deep explanation of them, and that's like, it works. You don't really know. I'm not saying who dies. I'm not saying who dies. I will only say it is a long list. Everyone is yeah, I'm just going with the long list. That's it. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm not spoiling. We're not spoiling here. I have a list though. Let's go with that. I have my notes. Ironically, my notes are kept in a DC pad. And I have one side of the sheet is just marked death. So there's a lot of dying. And that, going back to the like strength, that set up right away. There is an immediate battle with Thanos and his group, and I'm not going to say against whom or what happens, but they set up set up Thanos to the point of he's whipping ass. It's absolutely better than Age of Ultron. I thought Age of Ultron was bad. I mean, if you liked it, cool, but I was not a fan of Age of Ultron. It was way better than Age of Ultron. To me, Infinity War is easy top 5 of the Marvel films. It could be top 3. It's the best of the Avengers films. Like, hands down. Absolutely hands down. Like, it is clear from this film that they have learned from the last 10 years and went through and said what works, what doesn't work, and went from there. So the question is it sad on screen, the deaths, or is it cringe? All the above. We'll go with all the above. I didn't hear people crying, so there was that. But it's all the above. There's a lot of deaths. Good guys, bad guys, there's a lot of people dying. Bucky is definitely part of the film. He's obviously in Wakanda. We know that. That's not a spoiler. That's from Black Panther. He's part of the Resistance is the best way of putting it. And Bucky has his moments. And Everyone has their moments. I'm not saying who's dying. I really am not saying who's dying, because that is part of the shit that you get towards the end of the film. I'm not saying who's dying. You're gonna have to wait whatever 2 days to find all that out. I'm sure others will spoil. I'm not spoiling. We were asked not to spoil. The thing is, I appreciate it. The thing that go back for those who are in late. Oh my God, there's war. Okay, so the question is the main battle. So this is the fascinating thing about the film. Oh, there's not 2 battles. There's like a dozen different battles. So the film starts right away with Thanos and the Black Order versus somebody that I'm not going to go into. It's the end of the battle, but there's a fight there. We at one point then they go into invading New York again. So that's a battle into itself. There is a battle, not really a battle, there's a fight in nowhere. There's a fight on Titan. There's a fight in Wakanda. There's like battles all over the place. And I think that's the thing that's really interesting about the film that they did well, in that it's got that good roller coaster vibe to it. Like, the film starts off, it really sets up Thanos is a badass, and then goes from there, and it's kind of that, like, from there it goes into the, like, Thanos is coming, like, you need to, like, get your act together, and that point is kind of does, like, the quick catch-up as to, you know, Tony and Steve's not talking, how are the Avengers going to get together to do this, are the Avengers going to get together to do this? And it goes, at that point, it's like invasion, horror film. There was, like, I'm trying to think of a good horror film. It kind of felt like a little Independence Day in that way, of people, like, running in the streets and getting out of the way. And that's not a bad thing. It was actually done really well. So I appreciated that. And then from there, it's just, like, it's ebbs and flows. Like, this, out of all the films, this movie has done an amazing job of controlling the narrative and keeping the pace constantly going. There was maybe 1 or 2 moments that were slow, and even then it was just like we're slow for 2 seconds, boom, right on to like the next sequence. And the sequence and everything makes sense. There was maybe a couple things I would have done differently in the plotting. Like Bucky, you brought up Bucky. He's a key part of the film. And they kind of introduce him, and then it feels like they don't get back to that for like a half an hour. So I probably would have put that in a different moment. As far as the cliffhanger, yes. This is not a complete film. That you could kind of make it a complete film if you want to, but you're going to want to put your head in the oven if this is a complete film. There is a cliffhanger. There is a part 2. I know the Russo brothers have said that the Avengers Infinity War Part 2 isn't Avengers Infinity War Part 2. I have a feeling the reason why, because it will be, you know, Avengers Thanos Quest or Infinity Watch or Infinity Quest or whatever. But this is a Part 1 of Part 2. It is clear this is a Part 1 of Part 2. They kind of went into it dancing around that, but by the end, it is clear it's a Part 1 of Part 2. Plugging something in the future, the Russo brothers are actually going to be here in Washington, D.C. next week doing a talk. We're absolutely going to be there and probably live tweeting their entire speech. I'm sure people are going to ask questions about Part 2. Whatever they say, we're going to announce it or like tweet it up, so pay attention to that. Maybe I might do a little video afterwards. Last time they were in D.C., interesting enough, was with Winter Soldier, and someone asked about Captain Marvel, and at that point they said Captain Marvel would be in Avengers Infinity War. And we're just going to go with that. So Hulk, we got questions here. So Hulk wasn't much in the trailers. Bruce Banner and the Hulk are integral to the film. In many ways, Bruce Banner and Hulk are integral to the film. One, Bruce's role is to act as the way for the audience, for those who haven't seen 10 years of movies, let alone maybe the last 5 years of films. Really not even, like 2 years of film. It's the way for him to catch up because he hasn't been around since Age of Ultron. So Bruce is the way to tell the audience what has happened since the Age of Ultron to Infinity War. He's integral in the film. There's a couple things that have been spoiled already. The Lego set that has him in the Hulkbuster, that's not a huge thing. It does happen. The Hulk is a part of the film, and it's really interesting, kind of the character arc with him. It kind of continues from Ragnarok as far as him, in that we see kind of an evolution of him struggling with being Hulk and Bruce Banner, and that's a good chunk of his character throughout the film. Thanos worth the hype. I actually think the hype is undersold on Thanos, believe it or not. I said it earlier in the video, Thanos, we all made fun of it. Like, he's got what looks like scrotum for a chin. We did the Guy Fieri stuff. We made him look like the dude from, or we made jokes about him being the guy from whatever that show from Las Vegas is, the purchasing stuff. I'm totally blanking on the show's name. I can't believe it. They've done memes with him as like Homer Simpson. We've made fun of him. I actually think that might have helped the film in that it's undersold how good Thanos is. Not to repeat myself, but I know some people probably came in late. Pawn Stars, thank you, Joe. Yes, I know we made fun of him looking like the dude from Pawn Stars, and I made cracks at myself about the Infinity Gauntlet and Pawn Stars. The thing about Thanos is really interesting is that they created a character. I actually think he's right now the best villain they've had in any film. And the reason I think he's the best villain is for a couple reasons. They actually gave him a character arc. There is a complete arc in the film of him. Good question. I'm going to come to that in a second. Let me finish my Thanos thoughts. So they gave him a character arc. He's got a motivation. It plays into his relationship with Gamora. We actually get a good reason why he wants to like murder half of existence, which is really interesting in that there's like eco-terrorists that have these same feelings that if you wiped out half of humanity, the Earth would be saved. And I apologize, there's a emergency, something going on out the window. So they actually give him a really good arc, which is great. And there's points of the film that you actually feel like you can connect with him and you feel sorry for him. And a lot of that has to do with, I think, Brolin's acting and how well the CGI is done. This is the first time that actually the villain itself, I didn't have a CGI issue with it. There was points I forgot that it was CGI, and it really did feel like a dude in purple makeup and like old school, real effects. Like they went old school Star Wars effects. I mentioned before, there's one moment, and I'm trying to think when it is in the film, because maybe you'll pick it up, but he's going off of, like, he's thinking about something, and you see his eye twitch, and it's like just one eye twitch. And I know it's a thing that I do myself. Like, when you think about it, you kind of do, like, that sort of thing. It happens, and it feels so natural, and it doesn't feel like a computer program put it in it. So they were, like, motion capturing probably up to that level, which I think really helps the feel of it. It makes it really, really impressive. So the character, the plot, the arc, his motivation, the acting, it's all really, really good. And I'm trying not to overhype it because I don't want you to go in and think, like, this sucks. We're not saying die. We're not doing spoilers death. No spoilers here. Sorry. But Thanos, like, he lives up to the hype and then some. I think he's done really, really well. And they set him up to a point that he comes off as a massive badass. He really does feel like this huge hurdle that the Avengers can't beat. Big cast. Great question. This is actually a really, really good question. There are some characters who get a little bit of short shrift. War Machine's in it. I wouldn't say he's huge in it, but he's got his role, he's got his part. Bucky is in a similar role. He's got his role, he's got his part. Shuri is kind of that way. That, they've all have their role, they have their parts. It's not that they don't do much. It's just there's other places to focus on. Black Widow fans are probably going to get irritated by this. She does have some like kick-ass moments, which are great, but as far as like lines and really doing much, there really isn't much there. The main one, the main folks that people will be happy. Like the main characters that the film really focuses on are Cap, Um, Obviously, Iron Man. Spider-Man's a big one. Thor is huge. Peter's big. Rocket actually has a decent amount of time. Um, Trying to think who else. And Gamora would be the other big one. Um, all those characters have a really good time, like good amount of, and Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange would be the other big one, actually a really huge one. So all those characters have a good amount of screen time. Everyone else has a decent amount of screen time. They all have their moments, but it's not like you can fit God knows how many characters there are on this screen. But everyone should be happy. If you loved Black Panther, like everyone's involved from Black Panther, it feels like. Everyone from Guardians is involved. Everyone from Avengers and all the films later like is involved in some way. There are two that aren't, and I'm not going to spoil that one. As far as major character dies, I will say yes. There is a lot of death in this film. Good guys, bad guys, there is a shit ton of death. As I said, I spent an entire sheet of paper on this, just marking down everyone who died. And there's some interesting choices. Obviously, we've got a part 2, and it's comics. No one really ever stays dead. So there's that. There's also some pretty cool surprises. Do I think Venom will be any good? I really have no idea. Not to go off a tangent, I really have no idea. Like, the trailer is better than I expected, but then again, Spider-Man 3 looked okay before it got to the theater. I really have no idea. I mean, Tom Hardy's either fantastic or bad. I'm not saying who dies. Not spoiling that. Do not do it. I'm not doing that for multiple reasons. The other things, because parts of the fun of the film is watching people get butchered and die. I have no idea okay, so I will say this. I actually have no idea if anyone who's died will return. No freaking idea. I do not, where the film ends, I do not have a clue where it's going to go. There is one kicker at the complete end of the credits that hint at something that might be like the ace in the hole where the good guys might finally be able to go and take on the bad guys. But I seriously have no freaking idea where it goes, how it goes, like what part 2 is going to be. And I think that's probably one of the coolest things. I didn't expect this film, to be honest with you. The way they went with the story arcs, what they... yeah, I mean, like, it's comics. People come back all the time. Like, it's part of comics. What they did with the film, I was actually really surprised with it. They've made some really interesting choices in a good way, and people I think are going to love those choices or they're going to hate those choices. This is absolutely going to be a $1 billion film. I have no doubt it's going to be a $1 billion film. I would not be surprised if it's the highest grossing opening of all time. It would be 3-day opening since it's not a 4-day weekend. I would not be surprised at all as far as that. Coming out of the audience, everyone seemed to be really hyped. I can't wait to go again this weekend. You're going to scream. So, all right, so Some Monster 78, you're going to scream. So that was a big thing of the film. And actually probably the worst thing about the film in some ways is the audience was so hyped about this and so excited in that, moments come on. Like, there's really funny moments, and you're laughing, and then you miss what's going on afterwards because there's really funny moments. Ragnarok, I think, had the same issues. It's not really an issue, but it's something to think about. When characters come on, like when Steve Rogers shows up, the audience screamed. When Black Panther showed up, and like we shift to Wakanda, the audience screamed and like cheered. Thor being a badass, the audience screamed and cheered. Like it's that type of movie, and because of that, you miss some stuff. And that's just what it is, going to see films with an audience. I didn't see it in 3D, so I can't tell you how good the 3D is. I'm going to go see it 3D on this weekend. I could tell you IMAX. I saw it on 2D. I can't wait to see it on 3D. There is IMAX by me, but I don't do that. I'm not I'm not saying who's dying. I've said this a few times. I'm not saying who's dying. Hero that stood out. So it's actually a really good question. It's actually really interesting of who stood out. Black Order was freaking awesome. The Black Order looks fantastic and it's great. The who stood out is actually a really good question. So Thor, I've talked about this a little bit earlier. Thor, I was surprised at how much he's in the film and how much the film centers around him. Really kind of surprised by that. There is a meme going around that's the text between heroes, all them talking about how all of them like lost their family members. I don't know if the writers of this film either saw that meme or like we're going with it, or the meme or the writers did the meme. But that I thought was it's in the film. It's really funny in that it's in the film, or at least versions of it is in the film. Thor is the one that really stood out. You know, obviously we saw at the end of Thor Ragnarok. At the end of Thor Ragnarok, that that Thanos was overlooking them. I'm not going to say what goes on from that because that would definitely be a spoiler. But a lot of the film is Thor. There's actually it's basically there's three stories going on. There's Thor trying to go get a weapon to go kill Thanos. There's Iron Man and his group trying to go to Titan to go take on Thanos there, and then there's Cap and his group on Earth attempting to stop an invasion and protect Vision. So that's kind of like the trilogy of who stands out. The Soul Stone is in the film. It is explained. The explanation is a little weak, and there's a twist to it, but the scene is actually one of the more, the Soul Stone scene is actually one of the most dramatic moments of the film, in that it really sets up an interesting thing for Thanos, and humanizes him. So it's a really key pivotal thing. I think one of the big things that'll come out of the film will be some of the reveals around the Soul Stone. But yeah, it's actually a really key thing when it comes to the Thanos' story arc in the film. Alright, so what is it? Does Loki have the thing? So let's see here. So the Soul Stone is a decent amount. That's an underlying theme, because he wants to get. So we said we got death predictions. I'm not saying those. Does Loki have any good scenes like in Ragnarok? Yeah. Does he have any? I'm sorry, reading the comments, and it's just so difficult not to spoil this, and I don't want to spoil it because part of the thing about the film is that I was going in knowing nothing, and where it went and what they did shocked me. I think that's the honest truth. Is like part of the reason I don't want to spoil anything is because the film went in a complete different direction than I was expecting as far as the resolution and the story itself. I'm saying that this is the empire of the arc for a reason, and that should give you hints as to the film. Like, this is a dark, depressing, not really depressing, this is a dark film. The heroes don't win necessarily. There's that ending where you don't know what's going to go on next, and I have no idea what's going on next. So yeah. So it says, yeah. See, I'm not gonna say who is that. I don't think there's. Okay, so I don't know your definition of graphic or extreme sad deaths. There's a lot of deaths. If you're connected to the characters, you're gonna be sad about it. There are, as far as graphic, I mean, there's a lot of impaling. There's a lot of impaling in this film. I don't know why, but there's a lot of impaling. So if you consider like a sword through a chest graphic, then sure. There's not really tons of blood. There's like some alien blood. You know, Thanos gets cut and there's like a drip of blood. But it's not the type of thing of like a head explodes, and it's not scanners. Let's go with that. And none of the movies are really that anyways. But there is, I mean, it's a giant fights. There's a lot of fights. Um, Go in with no spoiler. So I would suggest go in no spoilers. This is actually a really good question. I would say go in no spoilers if you can. And the reason is I was honestly shocked about the film. And I think there's very few films with Marvel that I haven't been watching the film and said, this is the direction it's going to go. I generally have been able to pick out, during the film and be like, all right, this is the direction it's going to go. From the stuff leading up to it, you generally knew kind of like what the hints were. But like we knew Ragnarok was a riff on Planet Hulk. And, we kind of knew Hela wanted to destroy Asgard. We didn't know why, and that, Hulk and Thor would have to get together to take her on. Like Ragnarok, we kind of knew that stuff. Ant-Man kind of was somewhat predictable. So this is a film, though, where anything can happen, and anything does happen. There is so many locations that they go to that have never been gone to before, and I've got a list of that I need to go over and get all like the references from the film. There are references to characters, like remember there's God, what's his name from that was in Days of Future Past, that's on Game of Thrones, Henry Dinklage, yeah, like he's in the film, and no one's predicted what his role is. I kind of had a sort of idea, but like I didn't nail that one. And I think part of all that was part of the fun. Like it's what they did with this film. I was surprised. I actually was surprised. So you're gonna be like, so you went with the Batman suit. This is what I wore. I wore my X-Men Magneto was right t-shirt. Someone from the Black Order survives. I think so. So are we asking favorite hero or villain in general, or the film? Different answers on that one, but it was. Thank you so much, sir. All right. General favorite villains is hand down Doctor Doom and Green Goblin. Absolutely those two. I love Green Goblin and Doctor Doom. I really hope we finally get a decent Doctor Doom at some point. And heroes, I've never, like, I've liked heroes, obviously. I've never been a big one. Like, always enjoyed the X-Men. That's what I kind of grew up reading. Optimus Prime was, like, the jam when I was a kid. And when it comes to the films, so the films generally, like, I loved Ant-Man for the humor of it. I thought it was a great action comedy, heist comedy. It completely did a different thing than all the other films, which I thought was fantastic. Black Panther I thought was great onto it, and that you had a nice, like, humble main character who showed actual humility. This film, like, it's interesting juxtaposing Cap, Iron Man, Black Panther to some extent, Thor, and then even Thanos. Thanos, as far as the Marvel Cinematic, hands down favorite villain. I would kind of put the Black Order in there. Like, the Black Order looks freaking fantastic. I think it was all CGI. I have no idea if it was all CGI, but it looks absolutely fantastic. That was probably another thing that really surprised me, is that how well the CGI looks. They look really, really, really good. Like, whoever did the CGI of this film rocked it. I think that was the darkest film. Let me finish the CGI thought, and I'll answer that question, because it's actually a really good question. The CGI was absolutely fantastic. Like Thanos, as I mentioned, like, the eye twitching is such a small detail, but unexpected, and it was pretty freaking awesome. Now going to all of it looks great. There was only one CGI moment that I wanted to scream in the theater, and it involves the Hulkbuster, and it's really bad. Like, everything else looks fantastic. I am baffled why this looked so bad. The only thing I can think of is that they went back and like redid it after they filmed everything and then put it in, but it looks really, really, really bad. It's the type of like where everyone is one shade and then he's kind of bright. Like it's really bizarre. The darkest film so far. I think the darkest ish. Civil War absolutely had dark moments. And I would say Ragnarok had some really dark moments too. The ending of Ragnarok is pretty freaking dark. Overall, probably Winter Soldier a little bit, but it's dark in kind of like that 70s Vertigo spy thriller sort of way, as opposed to like, I want to put my head in the oven. Ragnarok, I think, for as humorous as that film was, it's pretty dark. Like, the end of the film is all about refugees. So, that's really just like, just overall look, yeah, I think Dark World is probably darkest as in like color wise. But yeah, so it's good. Like this is really, I can't wait for Friday. Like I'm actually tempted to go get tickets for Thursday and then go see it again on Friday. It was, I think, that good. If this film isn't the #1 opening of all time, I'll be shocked. I honestly will be really, really shocked. I'm expecting sellouts like across the board. It's not a question of if it's going to make $1 billion. The question of when it's going to make $1 billion. Was it Black Panther's at 1.3? I would not be shocked if this passes Black Panther. I actually wouldn't be shocked if this winds up passing the original Avengers and all those films and goes to the top of the list. The only thing I can see hurting the film is if the folks who expected a complete story get to the end and say, what the hell? That's about the one thing that I think might surprise people. They're not making it obvious that this is a part 1 of part 2. And that's probably the only real negative I would say about like the whole lead up to it. If you understand that it's part 1 of part 2, your view's probably going to be different than if you get to the end and didn't know that there's a part 2 coming. That's kind of that's probably the biggest thing, and it's not a spoiler at all. So yeah, Killmonger was a great villain. I'm not gonna deny that one. Like Killmonger up to Thanos is a great villain. The reason I liked yeah, so the trending page with the title of a character, if they list one, they're full of shit. I'm just gonna go with that. If they list one character of a die, they're full of it. Don't believe the video. As I said, there's an entire sheet on here who covers who dies. It's a lot of people. So if there's any videos out there that says one person dies, just they're full of it. They don't know what the hell they're talking about, and I would question like everything that they post up. So going back to villains, Killmonger I think was absolutely great. The some monster, you'll be happy. We'll go with that. I'm not going to go into specifics, but you'll be happy as to what this is leading to. The Russo brothers have already said that Captain Marvel isn't in the film, but there is a very massive nod to Captain Marvel in the film. So you're going to be very happy, and that's kind of the thing that I'm trying to figure out is how Captain Marvel will tie into what comes next and where Captain Marvel's been for the last 10 years of films. So let's go with that. After this is definitely Ant-Man 2. When's that? It's out November-ish? Is that right? I think. It's later in the year. But yeah, Ant-Man and Wasp is out after this. So obviously he survives. I will be... I'm glad I'm getting you hyped on this one. So obviously Ant-Man survives on it. How Ant-Man and Wasp deal with this, I really don't know. A lot of people die. We're just going to go with that, Igor. A lot of people die. It's a lot of characters. I'm not going to say who dies, how they die. There's a lot of characters. This is the Butcher's Bill. Bring me the Butcher's Bill. If you don't know that reference, look it up. It's a pretty big one. Yeah, I'd be pissed on that one. If they said that one person, so help me reach 1,000. If whatever that video is out there lists one person, I'm not right gonna say is that the video's full of shit. Like they might list more than people inside the video, but if their title lists one person, like just friggin' ignore it. Um, it's not true. If they all list as one person, it's not true. We'll just go with that. Um, Venom trailer, like it's better than I thought it would be. I'm still waiting to see more. Uh, I can't show the notebook because it lists who died, but there is a sheet over here, and then there's notes. The interesting is this is my notes, and there's just like a bunch of lists of references that I have to go look up, um, and go figure out. And it's done in the dark, so it looks like a madman to write this. It's pretty damn close to a 10 out of 10. So like out of the three Avengers films, like Age of Ultron I think was the worst. Like I hands down easily Age of Ultron was the worst to me. The first Avengers I thought was really good in that it was historic in what it did. It was bringing all these characters together. It was a fun film. It's really entertaining. It's a little like thin at points, but it's really enjoyable. This takes all of that and then some. Like it Infinity War is clearly 10 years of them learning what works and what doesn't work and putting that all in one film. Um, as far as crying or feeling moved by it, I actually didn't feel moved. So, interesting enough, I didn't feel moved by any of the deaths. I did feel shocked at who dies and where the film went. Like, by the end of the film, I'm not exaggerating, my jaw was dropped and I did utter holy shit. I was very surprised in what they did with that. Um, and that was the kind of the thing that surprised me more than anything else. I think my reaction wasn't about who or how, it was just about like that they went there. That's the thing that really kind of surprised me more than anything else. But going to that, like this is hands down easily the Ashes. Um, yeah, that's kind of the thing. Yeah. I have a theory. Thanos gets all the stones. Dave, you seen it, or are they your predictions? The film's really good. So Speed, yeah, the film is really good. This is easily in the top 5 of Marvel films. It's probably arguably in like the top 3. It's really good. It's clearly they've taken all the stuff that they've done for the previous 10 years and have put it in one film and have done it like so good. Like the interactions are fantastic. I found myself laughing. I found myself saying "holy crap" multiple times. I found myself cheering. I think any film that gets you and the crowd going like hell yeah and all that. The like the If any film gets you to do that sort of reaction, that will get you to be happy. Like that's a good film. Like that to me is a good film. If I'm watching a film and I'm sitting there going, hell yeah, like as Cap comes in, or like About Time, or Kick Ass, like that sort of stuff. That's what film should do. Like, it should get you that like emotional pump and fun. So yeah, this film really succeeds in that. Really succeeds. Spider-Man isn't in a lot, or is in a lot. He is one of the key things in the film. It's him and Tony Stark pretty much the entire way doing their thing. So he is in it a lot. Yeah, he's one of the characters that get a lot of screen time. Rafa, you're going to be very happy to know Thor is one of the pillars of the film. I would kind of look at it in that the film is really based off of 3, not counting Thanos, 3 storylines, really 4 total if you count Thanos, but 3 storylines, and then in the 3 storylines that revolve around Tony, Cap, and Thor. Is there any X-Men references? No. There's no references to X-Men. The Fox deal is not done until 2019. There are absolutely no references at all as far as that. So yeah, I'm going now. I'll turn my thanks, Some Monster. We've been doing this for almost an hour, so I think we're gonna wrap up. I've said everything I need to say. I'm not gonna say any more as far as that. But yeah, that's everything that we need to know. Dave, you're a jackass. We're gonna go with that. Yes, people die. That's what we're going with. Any other questions? Feel free to throw in. We'll throw it in there. But yes, a lot of people die, and that's what you need to know. That there's a lot of deaths. No spoilers. We're not a spoiler people. It's a jackass thing to do. So yeah, if that's all the 3 that you think die, like you don't you don't know the film. Let's go with that. Way more than 3 people die, and that's it. All right, we're at an hour. We're gonna go with that. All right, Dave's getting booted. All right, so Dave should be muted at this point, hopefully. But yeah, so continuing. So now we got that. See you when I return from I would see the movie. Absolutely. So I actually kind of want your comments on this and see what you think. Thanks, Rafa, for watching. Might maybe do some more down this. We got another movie reviewer. He's going to have a written review maybe today, at some point soon. So that's going to be on the site. I'm really interested in seeing what he has to say. It's gonna be fantastic. We've actually, for those who are really into this stuff, Graphic Policy Radio, we've got a podcast that will be on tonight at 10 p.m. You can go to our site, Graphic Policy, and find it there. They're going to be talking about Jim Starlin, and you can go watch that or listen to that. So they're going to talk about a lot of like Thanos and Starlin and his references. So if you want to get like the history of these characters, it's going to go into that. Should be really, really cool to listen to. I'm trying to think what else we've got. Holy crap, people. Yeah, no spoilers. Don't be jackasses here. So yeah, that's about what I think, everything on it. So we're going to have the review from Andy. That'll hopefully be up tonight. We've got the radio show tonight. And that's going to go into the history of Loki and all that. It should be a good amount of time to check stuff out. I'm going to actually probably have a written review on Graphic Policy later this week, probably for Thursday. Maybe we'll do another video, or like a video after seeing it again on Friday. Not quite sure. Like, obviously you guys like this, so more videos like this going on. Maybe future movies, comics, stuff like that. You know, we'll see. We'll have a nice, better location. We're going to get a nice official headquarters. So we'll have some cool stuff behind us. So, it's been an hour. It's been over an hour, so thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Screw you for the people spoiling stuff. It's not cool. We don't do that stuff here. So until next time, as you know, always, I really appreciate it. Now, if you're into comics, if you're into this stuff, you can check us out at graphicpolicy.com. Really thank you for watching. I had no idea, like, what was going on. Igor, I was like, obviously, Joe, you're awesome. You write for the site, so not too shocking. Some Monster, Rafa, the Get Me to 1,000 person, like, help me reach to 1,000. Speed Boom, all you, like, thanks for watching. Really cool. It's been really fun watching this. So if you want to watch it again, this ramble, this will all be on, on archive, so you can watch it from the beginning. But short version, Infinity War was freaking awesome. I'm going again. Highly recommend it. Stay away from spoilers. Don't spoil it for other people. That's part of the fun of the film. It is a film that you're going to cheer and scream and hoot and holler during, and you're going to want to go see it again because you missed stuff because you were cheering and hooting and hollering and all that. So, pretty much everything. It's everything I can think of. So, I would say, thanks for watching, and yeah, until next time, appreciate it. Cry. So, good question. Depends how attached you are to the characters. That's kind of the thing. I didn't cry. I cried. I remember crying when Optimus died. I was also probably like 6 or 7 at that point in time. I don't think people were crying in the theater, but there was definitely like shock at some of the stuff that happened. Don't know if you'll cry at all. Like, every person's gonna be different. But yeah, that's, if you've got attachment to the characters, bring hankies. There's a lot of death. We're gonna leave it at that. So, as always, like, thanks for watching. We got tons of stuff going on the site. We're going to have more reviews. We've got the podcast, which are going to be really cool. The podcast will actually be up on here Saturday. You can listen to the archives of the podcast if you don't want to listen to it live. And it should be a really cool one. So, thanks for watching. I really want to hear your comments about about what you think of the film. So after you all see it this weekend, like, come back, make comments, or like ping us on the site. I'd actually really be interested in hearing what you have to say. So thanks a ton. And yeah, until next time, I hope you enjoy the film.